On a sunny day in Los Angeles, Mike Tyson decided to take a quiet stroll through a bustling neighborhood market. Keeping a low profile, he blended into the crowd, his baseball cap pulled low. But amidst the vibrant energy of the market, a group of rowdy thugs noticed him. Whispering among themselves, they sneered, convinced that Tyson didn't belong in their territory. Fueled by arrogance and prejudice, they made the reckless decision to confront him, unaware that they were about to challenge the world's toughest boxer. As Tyson moved through the vivid maze of stalls, the sights and sounds of the East Los Angeles street market came alive. Colorful displays of fresh produce, the scent of spices in the air, and the lively chatter of vendors. The scene was serene, but it wouldn't stay that way for long. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Journey of Stories to see how this intense encounter unfolds. As Tyson navigated the maze of bustling stalls and vendors, he paused by a fruit stand brimming with vibrant, fresh produce. His sharp gaze landed on a pile of juicy oranges, their bright color catching his attention. Carefully, he picked up a few, his large calloused fingers inspecting the fruits for quality. The owner of the stand, a friendly elderly woman named Betty, noticed him immediately. With a warm smile spreading across her wrinkled face, she greeted him. Betty couldn't help but feel a mix of admiration and curiosity. She recognized something familiar about the towering figure before her. The rugged face of a man who had once captivated the world with his strength and determination. The distinct familiarity of his rugged face caught Betty's attention, and her eyes sparkled with curiosity as she decided to ask him a question. Betty, you look familiar, young man. Are you someone famous? Despite his towering presence and features that could be recognized by almost anyone, Tyson greeted her with a chuckle and a warm, disarming smile. His relaxed and humble demeanor suggested he was just another shopper, blending seamlessly into the market crowd. Tyson's humility and friendliness stood in stark contrast to the fearsome reputation that had once defined him. In this simple exchange, there was a tenderness that made the moment feel unexpectedly human. Tyson let out a booming yet kind chuckle that echoed through the market, drawing a laugh from Betty as well. His smile broadened, his words self-deprecating but sincere. Tyson. Not anymore, ma'am. Just a regular guy looking for some good oranges. You've got the best in town, right? Betty, touched by Tyson's unexpectedly pleasant and humble manner, responded with a hearty laugh of her own. Her beaming smile was as radiant as the California sun, warming the air between her and the former heavyweight champion. Betty. Here, take this one on the house. A little extra sweetness for a kind customer. Tyson accepted the orange with a grateful nod, his appreciation evident in the small gesture. Tyson pocketed the orange with a grateful nod, a simple gesture that conveyed his deep appreciation for Betty's kindness. Leaving her stall behind, he continued his leisurely stroll through the market, his towering frame rising above the bustling crowd. The peaceful rhythm of the market seemed to reflect Tyson's calm enjoyment, until it was shattered by the rowdy disturbance of a group of 5 men. Their loud, boisterous laughter and taunts echoed across the vibrant market, cutting through the cheerful chatter of vendors and shoppers. The gang members were easy to spot. Each one wore a menacing leather jacket, their gang's emblem emblazoned on the back. They moved with an air of arrogance, their eyes scanning the crowd for potential trouble, until they locked onto Tyson. The gang instantly spotted Tyson, and their antics came to an abrupt halt. They exchanged smirks and knowing glances, their expressions full of veiled interest. Bloodshot eyes scanned him from head to toe, their intimidating stares sizing up the man who dared walk through their territory. Fueled by inebriation and bravado, their minds began to devise a mischievous plan. Luis, the apparent ringleader of the group, emboldened by liquid courage, rose from his perch on the corner store steps. His gait, though unsteady, was laced with false confidence and a sense of territorial entitlement. Luis, slurring, his breath reeking of cheap beer. "Hey, look at this guy. What's he doing here?" Luis. "Doesn't he know this is our turf?" "You lost, pretty boy." Carlos, standing a few steps away, sneered and let out a sharp, mocking laugh, his voice adding to the hostile atmosphere. Carlos, derisively. He looks like he's lost. Maybe we should help him find his way out. Or better yet, maybe we should charge him a toll for walking through our territory. The other gang members snickered, their laughter growing louder as they encouraged Carlos. Their posturing became more brazen, feeding off one another as the tension in the air thickened. Tyson, however, remained calm. Years of experience in the ring and in life had taught him the value of patience and restraint. He stood his ground, quietly observing the gang's antics, his face betraying no emotion. Tyson's years in the ring had taught him the art of patience. Unfazed by the gang's taunts and menacing stares, he continued walking, ignoring their attempts to goad him into a confrontation. His calm demeanor seemed to only provoke them further. Luis and his gang, fueled by a toxic mix of alcohol and unchecked aggression, were determined not to let Tyson off the hook. They closed in on him, their movements predatory. Luis, voice laced with menace. "Hey! You deaf or something? I'm talking to you. You don't turn your back on me, old man." Tyson stopped in his tracks. Slowly, his massive frame turned to face the gang. His expression remained calm, his demeanor steady, an unnerving display of self-control in the face of their provocation. Tyson's calm demeanor was unnerving in the face of Luis's provocation. His voice was even, his words measured and steady. "Tyson, I'm not looking for any trouble, fellas. Just enjoying my day. Let's not ruin it, okay?" The gang members exchanged uncertain glances, a flicker of hesitation passing through their bloodshot eyes. For a brief moment, it seemed Tyson's calm might diffuse the situation. But Luis, emboldened by the presence of his gang, stepped closer, his expression twisting into a malevolent grin. His tone dripped with sarcasm as he mocked Tyson's plea for peace. Luis, mockingly. "Trouble? Who said anything about trouble? We're just being friendly, right?" His words, sharp as a switchblade, cut through the air, egging on the rest of the gang. "Luis, who said anything about trouble? We're just being friendly, ain't that right, boys?" The gang members snorted with laughter, their jeering growing louder as the tension in the air became almost unbearable. The rising threat of violence was palpable. Slowly, they closed in on Tyson, forming a semicircle around the towering former champion. Their snickers escalated into toothy grins, their eyes gleaming with the unmistakable lust for violence and domination. Carlos, emboldened by his position within the group, stepped forward, his posture radiating arrogance. Placing a hand menacingly on Tyson's shoulder, he leaned in closer. His voice was low, his piercing gaze locked onto Tyson's calm expression. "Carlos, you look like you've got some money on you. Why don't you share some with us? We wouldn't want this to get unfriendly." "Carlos, you look like you've got some money on you. Why don't you share some with us? We don't want to have to get unfriendly." Tyson, the very embodiment of patience, sighed quietly. There was a hint of disappointment and resignation in his demeanor, his shoulders slumping slightly under the weight of this unnecessary confrontation. Even so, his calm, commanding presence remained unshaken. "Tyson, look, I don't want any problems. Why don't you guys let me be, and we'll all have a good day." Carlos's hand remained on Tyson's shoulder, his smirk twisting into an ugly sneer. Leaning in closer, Carlos's voice dropped to a condescending tone, laced with mockery. Carlos, with condescension. "Oh yeah? Is that so?" Luis, emboldened by what he perceived as Tyson's passive resistance, stepped forward with an air of dominance. His fingers jabbed into Tyson's chest like a dagger, his voice now filled with snarling aggression. "Luis, you don't tell us what to do. This is our neighborhood. You don't belong here. You're in our territory now, old man." The tension in the air reached a fever pitch, thick enough to feel. The gang members' shoulders tensed like coiled springs, their postures radiating aggression. The surrounding shoppers and pedestrians, sensing the imminent eruption of violence, scattered like prey fleeing from hunters. In a swift, aggressive motion, Luis lunged forward. Luis lunged for the bag of oranges, snatching it from Tyson's grasp and carelessly tossing it to the ground. The fruit scattered and rolled across the concrete like marbles, their bright colors stark against the gray pavement. Energized by Luis's brazen act of aggression, the gang members began to circle Tyson. Their swaggering steps grew more predatory, their taunts and jeers intensifying. Luis, his arrogance and aggression boiling over, stood defiantly before Tyson, his eyes flashing with a dangerous dare. Luis, voice seething with venom. "What are you gonna do about it, tough guy, huh? You gonna cry about your oranges?" His words dripped with mockery, the challenge hanging in the air as the gang closed in tighter. Tyson's face was a study in stoicism as he stared back at Luis with a cold, unflinching gaze. His silence, more intimidating than any verbal threat, held the gang in an uneasy suspense. Tyson, the embodiment of controlled fury, clenched his fists until his knuckles turned white, a small but telling sign of the barely contained power surging within him. His voice, calm yet commanding, cut through the tension like a blade. "Tyson, you've got one chance to walk away. Don't make me do something we'll both regret." But Luis, his ego refusing to yield, countered Tyson's warning with a taunting smirk. His bravado, fueled by the presence of his gang, was unwavering. "Luis, or what, tough guy? What are you gonna do?" Luis's arrogance, threatening to tip into recklessness, surged as he leaned closer. "Luis, ha! Or what?" Carlos, the loudest and most obnoxious of the group, let out a derisive cackle. His laughter cut through the market like a piercing dagger, dripping with contempt for what he perceived as Tyson's softness. Carlos, mockingly, "Oh, look at this guy. He thinks he's some kind of tough guy. What's he gonna do? Punch us? Bet he can't even throw a punch anymore." The gang erupted in laughter, their taunts becoming more brazen and derisive with each passing second. The air around them practically crackled with their false bravado, the energy growing more volatile as their mockery reached a fever pitch. Emboldened by his gang's laughter and Tyson's apparent restraint, Luis decided to make his move. With a smug grin of self-satisfaction, he stepped aggressively toward the imposing figure of the former boxer. Without hesitation, Luis shoved Tyson hard on the shoulder. The force of the push caused a ripple of surprise among the other gang members, their jeers momentarily silenced as they watched for Tyson's reaction. Luis, cocky, with a malicious smirk. "Yeah, what are you gonna do, old man? Think you can take us all on?" That shove was the final straw, the one that broke the camel's back. It triggered a chain reaction in Tyson, a release of raw, controlled power that had been held in check until now. Tyson's eyes flashed with a predator's fury, his calm demeanor evaporating as his expression hardened into something primal and unrelenting. Tyson, his eyes blazing with a predator's fury, took a step back. His expression shifted, morphing from a mask of calmness into a grimace of pent-up rage. The restrained patience he had displayed up until now was gone, replaced by an intensity that sent an unmistakable warning. In a voice low and chilling, Tyson spoke. "Tyson, all right, you asked for it." With that, he lunged forward, his fists unleashing a torrent of power and precision. His punches rained down on Luis with the force of a hurricane, each blow hitting its target with the speed and ferocity of a raging thunderstorm. The first jab was precise and swift, connecting with the force of a truck slamming into a brick wall. Luis crumpled to his knees, his body doubling over as he gasped for air, the confidence drained from his face in an instant. Luis collapsed in a wheezing agony, clutching his midsection, struggling to catch his breath. The rest of the gang stood frozen, their faces locked in a tableau of shock and disbelief. Their eyes darted to Luis, now crumpled on the ground, as the stark realization dawned on them. They had pushed too far. Carlos, his expression twisting from shock to a mask of pure rage, stepped toward Tyson, his fists clenched tightly, trembling with barely contained anger. His voice, low and venomous, carried the weight of his fury. Carlos, hissing with cold fury, "You're going to pay for that! You don't mess with us, old man. We're going to make you regret this." The other gang members, shaken but regaining their composure, began to recover from their shock. Their postures grew more aggressive as they prepared to close in on Tyson. Their bravado renewed despite the growing fear in their eyes. The gang members, shaking off their initial shock, began to encircle Tyson, forming a menacing wall around him. Their eyes gleamed with malice, their confidence returning as they prepared to strike. But Tyson, a hurricane of discipline and precision, moved with a grace and power that belied his size. Every movement was fluid, controlled, and deliberate. Carlos, in a fit of blind rage, grabbed a metal pipe from a nearby stall, intending to deliver a vicious blow. But in Tyson's hands, the pipe became nothing more than a discarded toy. Tyson disarmed him with a swift motion, his calm voice cutting through the escalating chaos. "Tyson, drop it. I don't want to hurt you boys." Carlos, his anger clouding his judgment, lashed out with a wild swing, but Tyson's reflexes were far too fast. Effortlessly evading the strike, Tyson's movements were so precise that they seemed almost effortless. The chaos began to spill out into the streets, drawing the attention of nearby shoppers and vendors. A crowd started to gather, their faces a mixture of fear, curiosity, and growing admiration for Tyson. The commotion spilled into the streets, drawing a fascinated crowd. Smartphones were quickly raised, each person capturing the unfolding spectacle. Onlookers whispered among themselves, the recognition of Tyson spreading like wildfire. Onlooker 1. "Is that Mike Tyson?" Onlooker 2. "Holy crap, it is. What's he doing here?" Onlooker 3. "I think he's fighting those gang members." Among the crowd was Maria, the elderly vendor Tyson had met earlier. Her frame, though small and aged, seemed to vibrate with fiery determination as she joined the chorus of cheers. Her voice, strained with excitement, carried above the noise as she clenched her hands into fists. "Maria, get them, Mr. Tyson. Show these hoodlums not to mess with good people." The crowd's energy shifted, their cheers growing louder, rallying behind Tyson with a sense of justice. The market was no longer just a place for shopping. It had become an arena, and Tyson was the undisputed champion. "Maria, you show them who's boss, Mr. Tyson." The crowd roared in approval, their voices surging with a newfound sense of justice. It was no longer just Tyson against the gang. It was Tyson leading a crusade against intimidation and violence, and the crowd was firmly behind him. Tyson's movements, now a blur of speed and precision, showcased the skill and power that had made him a legend. With a devastating uppercut that could make even the most seasoned fighter wince, he took down another gang member. The final member, still reeling from Tyson's earlier blows, staggered backward before crumpling like a fallen tree. His body crashed into a stack of wooden crates, scattering splinters and debris across the ground. The market erupted into a thunderous cacophony of cheers and applause, a collective release of pent-up emotion. The crowd's energy was electric, celebrating not only Tyson's strength, but the justice he had delivered to those who dared disturb the peace. The sight of the delinquent gang being decisively put in their place filled the crowd with satisfaction. Some onlookers clapped in approval, while others shouted words of encouragement, their voices carrying through the air like a wave of vindication. Like sharks sensing blood in the water, the commotion drew attention far beyond the market. Flashing police lights and wailing sirens converged on the scene, cutting through the cheers and signaling the fight's abrupt end. The officers emerged from their patrol car, their expressions a mix of concern and confusion as they tried to make sense of the chaotic scene. Their eyes darted from the groaning gang members sprawled on the ground to the bruised but composed Tyson, his chest heaving as he caught his breath. One officer, stepping forward cautiously, surveyed the situation and addressed the crowd. Officer 1. "All right, what's going on here?" Officer 1. "All right, what's going on here?" The The crowd, its energy shifting from exhilaration to righteous indignation, quickly gathered around the officers like a protective shield for Tyson. Bystander 1, pointing an accusing finger at the gang members. Those guys started it. They were harassing everyone. Bystander 2, clasping Tyson's shoulder. Yeah, and Mr. Tyson here saved us all. If it wasn't for him, who knows what they would have done? Bystander 3, voice rising above the noise. You should arrest these jerks and leave Mr. Tyson alone. The officers, their faces serious and focused, moved with grim efficiency. Without hesitation, they set to work cuffing the groaning gang members, twisting their arms behind their backs as they prepared to haul them away. The gang members winced as their arms were twisted awkwardly behind their backs, the officers roughly ushering them toward the waiting patrol car. Their earlier arrogance had vanished, replaced by a mixture of humiliation and pain. Officer 2, curt, all business. All right, you're coming with us. Don't even think about resisting. The gang members, now subdued, slumped into the back of the car like sacks of potatoes. Their groans and muttered curses were drowned out by the cheers of the crowd, who clapped and shouted in approval as justice was served. As the officers finished securing the gang members in the patrol car, one officer turned toward Tyson. His face carried a mix of gratitude and admiration as he addressed the former champion. The officer turned to Tyson, his expression shifting to one of admiration and respect. His voice carried the weight of newfound gratitude as he nodded approvingly. Officer, thanks for handling this, Mr. Tyson. You probably saved a lot of people from getting hurt. We appreciate it. Tyson, now visibly calmer, his chest still heaving as he caught his breath, gave a slight nod in acknowledgement. His eyes, steady and composed, betrayed the faintest hint of satisfaction. With the gang members safely in police custody, the officers slammed the patrol car doors shut. The tires squealed as the car pulled away, carrying the defeated thugs off to face the consequences of their actions. But just before the car disappeared from view, Luis, still slumped in the back seat, managed to twist around. His eyes, filled with malevolent hatred, locked onto Tyson like a pair of burning coals. Struggling against the officer's firm grasp, Luis managed to twist around in the back seat of the patrol car. His eyes, burning with malevolent hatred, locked onto Tyson like a pair of lasers. Luis's face, now contorted with rage, bore his clenched teeth as he spat out words laced with venom and fear. Luis, ragged voice, wide-eyed with bewilderment. Who the hell are you? You're not just some old guy, are you? His words, dripping with confusion and malice, hung in the air like a noose, the tension thick around him. Luis's eyes frantically scanned Tyson's face, searching for any hint of recognition, desperate to piece together who this man truly was. Tyson responded with a subtle but unmistakable smirk, an expression that spoke louder than words. Tyson, his smirk tinged with amusement, coolly replied, his words landing like a punchline to Luis's confusion. Tyson, voice calm and confident. I'm just a guy who doesn't like bullies. Looks like you learned that lesson the hard way. With that, Tyson turned away, his shoulders straightening as he began walking back toward Maria's fruit stall. Behind him, Luis was left stewing in the bitter taste of humiliation, his rage silenced by the undeniable reality of his defeat. The crowd, their collective admiration for Tyson swelling like a tidal wave, erupted into a cacophony of cheers and applause. The sound drowned out the engine of the patrol car as it pulled away, carrying the broken gang members out of sight. As the sound of the patrol car receded into the distance, Tyson, his composure fully restored, bent down to pick up his scattered bag of oranges. Carefully, he inspected each one for damage, dusting them off before tucking the bag securely under his arm. He began strolling back toward Maria's fruit stall, his eyes meeting those of the grateful onlookers. They offered him nods of appreciation and smiles of respect, their admiration for him clear. In the digital age, a moment like this spreads faster than a California wildfire. Within minutes, footage of the incident was uploaded to social media, providing a vivid testimony to Tyson's unmatched strength, discipline, and calm under pressure. The story of Tyson's bravery and compassion quickly caught fire online, drawing the attention of news outlets eager for a heroic tale. Like scavengers pouncing on fresh meat, they crafted sensational headlines to echo the internet's collective buzz. CNN headline: Mike Tyson teaches local gang a lesson they'll never forget. BBC headline: Iron Mike stands up to bullies. In the aftermath of the viral incident, Tyson found himself inundated with requests for interviews. A torrent of cameras and microphones clamored for his perspective, capturing the public's fascination with his actions. Tyson, ever the advocate for justice and equality, seized the moment. Using his platform, he delivered a powerful message, emphasizing the importance of courage, kindness, and standing up for what's right. Tyson, his face a mask of solemn conviction, stood before the cameras, delivering his message with the same intensity he had once delivered blows in the boxing ring. His voice carried both gravity and purpose as he addressed the world. Tyson: We've all got to stand up for what's right. It doesn't matter how big or small you are. What matters is having the courage to do the right thing. If someone is messing with you, don't be afraid to fight back. His words struck a chord with viewers and fans alike, sparking a wave of support on social media. Messages of admiration and solidarity flooded the internet, with people praising Tyson for his strength, compassion, and unwavering sense of justice. As Tyson basked in the adoration of the public, the gang members who had once thought themselves untouchable were now learning a harsh lesson. Actions have consequences. In a maximum security prison, the group huddled together in their cold, barren cells. Their faces were sullen and grim, the arrogance that once defined them replaced by a heavy sense of defeat. They had believed themselves invincible, but now they were nothing more than inmates, stripped of their pride, their freedom, and the power they thought they wielded. Officer Williams, the warden assigned to their wing, passed by their cell with a satisfied smirk. Watching their downfall unfold was a reminder of the justice that had been served. Officer Williams, with a hint of satisfaction: Looks like you boys finally met your match. With the gang members locked away and justice served, life in the market slowly returned to normal. Tyson, ever humble despite the widespread attention, resumed his quiet routine. The incident became a viral sensation, but for him, it was simply abiaz. He walked back to Maria's fruit stall. She greeted him with a warm smile, her gratitude shining through. Maria: You're more than a fighter, Mr. Tyson. You're a good man. Tyson chuckled softly, his expression calm and reflective. Tyson: Just doing my part, ma'am. Bullies don't belong here, or anywhere. The story of Mike Tyson's heroics became a symbol of courage and compassion, inspiring countless others to stand up against injustice. Social media exploded with stories and messages of support, and headlines across the globe celebrated his act of bravery. But Tyson didn't seek fame or recognition. For him, it wasn't about going viral or earning praise. It was about standing tall for what mattered most, protecting the innocent and showing the world that even the toughest battles can be fought with integrity and heart. As the sun set over the market, Tyson, with his bag of oranges in hand, disappeared into the crowd. The people he left behind would never forget the day they saw not just a boxer, but a true champion of justice. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Journey of Stories for more incredible tales of strength, justice, and humanity.